All right, so what do we have here today? It's a Roland showcase. We've got a whole bunch of Roland devices here from the 70s and the 80s. So let's talk a little bit about what we have. First, we have two tape echoes, the RE100 and the RE200. They're from about 1973. They are the first generation space echoes. They were replaced about 1 or 2 years later by the much more famous and common 201 and 101. Main difference between the two units is this one has a spring reverb inside, a peak level indicator, and a few more options in the mode selector for the head combinations. And what's the main difference between the 100, 200 and the next generation, the more famous ones? Well, it's the transport. These two use Sony RE tape cartridges. It's a good system, it's pretty stable. I've never had any tape breaking or anything like that, but it's very noisy and these things are very hard to find now. So obviously a free running tape is much easier. You can replace the tape as much as you want. This is a little bit more tricky, especially nowadays. In the middle we have today's drum machine. It's the Roland PB-300 Rhythm Plus. This was part of a whole system, including a MIDI recorder and a keyboard that you could attach this to. And it's got an arpeggiator, bass lines, chords that could be automatically played by the keyboard. So it's got MIDI like a signal at the back. I've actually never used this whole section here, so I don't even know what it sounds like. I only have this device. This one's been modified for multiple outputs. It had all the sounds in one mono output, but I've split it up in 4 different channels. Over here at the front we have a selection of Roland effect pedals. The oldest one we have is actually an A-Stone. This is the company that came just before Roland. The same founder and the same engineers. You can tell they look very similar, so the technology was ported to Roland. This is a stereo Phasor, simple controls. It's got a balance knob for the volume levels between left and right channels, so that's useful. This one is another Phasor, this one the Phase 5, it's a mono Phasor. This was probably made for organ Leslie type sounds. It's got a ramp up, ramp down, slow, fast speed. Interestingly, it has a touch control sensitivity mode where the input volume controls the speed of the LFO. So that's pretty original. And over there we have the famous CE1, the chorus Ensemble. This is similar to the circuitry of the jazz chorus. It's also a stereo unit. Finally, we have 2 80s Boss pedals, very common design that you see even to this day in stores everywhere. This is a dynamic filter. It's got a cutoff. It's basically an auto-wah that can work in manual mode too with an expression pedal. I use it as a kind of filter. All right, so this setup right now has 4 channels outputting from the drum machine. The bass drum and the congas are going in the space echo over there, and then through to the chorus ensemble for stereo output. After that, we've got the snare coming here. You can see it here. And then through to the stereo Phasor here. Finally, we've got 1 channel for the cymbals going in the filter, through to the overdrive, and into the Phase 5. All right, so let's play around with this setup a little bit.